Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Joel Elston here. Today is Thursday, April 26, 2018, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Your first daily dose of happy for the day. And Joel, we haven't spoken for a week, so how you doing, guy?
Things are amazing. We are having we've had our ninth winter this week, and
yeah, that's right.
and now we're back to summer this week today. So I'm really appreciative of all the bipolar weather this year. Amazing things are taking place here. So I feel great. It's always great to be on the show. I look forward to it. In fact, I was a guest on a similar type show, and while I certainly appreciated being on there, it made me appreciate so much what we do and the quality of, at least what I feel is the quality of the rapport that you and I have together, and it makes it such a great thing to look forward to every week.
Well, that's fantastic. What kind of show were you on?
It's a positive thinking show. It was out of Oregon, and they a lot of the concepts of what we talk about is sort of it's more of a neuroscience approach to it. It's more the positive psychology side.
Oh, okay.
But it's just, at the end of the day, it's the same stuff. And even though the positive psychology people don't like it to be the same stuff, it really is.
I know.
So, yeah. So I enjoy doing that, and when you have a rapport with someone, as you and I have developed over the years, and you have with the other co-hosts, I think that's one of your great gifts is developing that rapport. Is it translates to the audience. They pick up that we're truly enthusiastic about what we do. This is not a forced thing that we do. We do it, and almost every week. In fact, I can't imagine a week that we haven't experienced this. Right now, as I'm speaking, it's 8:02 a.m. on a Thursday morning, and all of a sudden it's going to be 9 o'clock. It just happens
yes,
like that.
That's true.
The perception of this hour flies by. So to me, that shows you how engaged we are with that. So I'm really grateful for what we do every week, and our audience, and the feedback that they send us is always appreciated.
I love the analysis you gave of the weather and how you described it as bipolar. See, that's the real strength of having a co-host who is also a therapist, because he can even diagnose the weather and then tell it what the cure is.
Yes, the weather. I have a cure for the weather. It's just accept the weather. The weather will be the weather, and it's our job to have a different perspective. And I've learned that a long time ago. That I when it's raining and you have it was ironic because it was like 49 degrees the other day, and we had a sideways rain coming.
Oh, one of those.
30 mile an hour wind.
Right.
And I got into the gym, and I ironically just noticed. This is stuff I noticed. Every single person that walked in the gym says, "Wow, it's cold and raining." And I'm like, wow, you observe that. It's this concept that, wow, this is going on. And we state the obvious over and over. Mm-hmm. And everybody was commenting on, the late winter, and it just keeps coming. And it's a topic of conversation, but at the same time, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. We get up and we get going, and the weather is going to be the weather. And us, a very similar thing. One of my dear friends has this aversion to daylight saving time.
Really?
And he complains about it pretty much until it changes again, almost daily.
Boy, that's a lot of complaining. I mean, that's like, what, 7 to 8 months?
It is. Well, that's his sort of profession, is complaining. And he, what I mentioned to him now, the funny part about this, Walt, is he complains about it, but he's in business for himself. So he sets his own schedule. So in reality, he doesn't have to go on daylight saving time. He doesn't. In his mind, before I have adopted my son Justin, I didn't go on. I just stayed on regular time in my mind. Now I just sort of treated everybody else like they were in a different time zone. I never changed my schedule, and I didn't have to. But obviously having a child now, school goes with whatever the legal time is. But
Right.
I never complained about it. But I think he just reminds us daily almost that, oh gosh, it's daylight saving time's killing me. And I'm like, no, not really. But we can choose to focus on all the negative, or we can choose to focus on the positive. And some people just I guess that's their comfort zone. But
I guess
that's a long-winded answer to how are things going. I don't know how I got there, but
that's funny though. That's really funny. Wendy was actually kind of challenging me earlier in the week because I almost always start the podcast with some sort of weather reference. And Monday and Tuesday here, I imagine also in Virginia, there were gorgeous days. I mean, they were like my favorite kinds of weather days. Because my favorite is like temperatures in the upper 60s, low 70s, blue sky, maybe a little cloud here or there, just a little puffy white cotton ball kind of thing. Beautiful sun, just gentle breeze. I mean, that to me is like idyllic. And I got that for 2 days in a row. And I was just, pumping it. And I was just so happy. And Wendy, at the end of or on the second day that I was talking about, she said, one day I want you to talk about the same thing with, like a driving rainstorm. So the next day it was raining all day long. And I start off by saying, isn't it wonderful? The rain is falling, the grass is greening up and so forth. And she just laughed because she knew what I was talking about.
Exactly. And well, that sort of becomes sort of it is, believe it or not, it's an overall view. Whatever is going to happen, the flailing or the focus on what you don't like versus what you do like. We have had some incredible weather. I love the fact that I don't have to spend water to water my yard when it's raining. I appreciate that. I appreciate my electric bill is less than $100 every month when it's not summer. So there's a lot going on with it. And in reality, I don't really, other than it being a topic of conversation, I don't really care. I mean, it does. None of this really affects my world. And other than I do appreciate, more than the weather is the fact that I get up to every day. I have the opportunity to get up and feel the weather, to experience the weather. The fact that I have that opportunity is really the beauty of it all. I think when you break it down on that level, the big macro type level like that, just like you're saying, live within the appreciation of. More than anything, it doesn't matter if you're dead; you don't get to enjoy the day. So the fact you've been given another day, there we are. I mean, it's certainly now with whatever's happening with the environment as we go. Not getting into the climate change thing, but we certainly have the ability to, no matter what you like, just hang around long enough. It will be there soon. It's sort of how it's working right now, and my friends in Florida, I grew up in Florida, and it is funny to watch them post about how cold it is when it gets, it's 61 degrees here. Mm-hmm. And everybody's wearing their jackets, and it's like, we live in a world of diverse perspectives, and until you live in someone else's perspective, you don't really understand it. That's sort of a wonderful way to approach it. You always do. I mean, you and I have talked about this, about wherever we are, and appreciating where you're at. That's the law of attraction.
It is. It very is. In fact, this whole thing about weather changing, I believe it actually started in England, but it's a truism here in New England, which is if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes and it'll change. And it does. I mean, weather is very changeable up here. It's still changeable in Virginia too. I think it's a little bit more changeable in New England. I don't know why. Maybe it has to do with the oceans or something. But mean, literally, it can just change on a dime in crazy ways that you don't even expect.
I do think there's something with the coastal stuff, and growing up in the Tampa Bay area, those that are listening in the Florida area, particularly Tampa, it is notorious. I mean, you can have a bright sunny day, and within 4 minutes, a massive thunderstorm rolls in with 95 mile an hour gusts, hail. It looks like the apocalypse. And then 6 minutes later, it's bright sun again.
Crazy.
It's amazing. One thing that was interesting to me is when I moved from my travels took me to the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and then to Richmond. In Florida, one thing that I always sort of grew up on is no matter what the weather, it's going to be better in a few minutes. And I started experiencing for the first time when I was in South Carolina days of rain, where it would rain for 2 or 3 days, and that was different. And it's very seldom, unless there's a tropical storm in Florida, that you have days of rain.
Yeah,
it's just pretty much these afternoon unbelievable thunderstorms, and then it's absolute beauty. And so anyway, I don't want to get too far in the weather, but that's it. Things are good if you look at them as good.
They are. They always are. And actually, the topic, as usual, ties in a certain way. The topic comes off of a post that you put on Facebook. Your post said, transform fear into action. And I thought, you know what, that actually can create a little controversy, because Abraham Hicks teaches that before you take any action, you want to get into alignment first in order to get the optimal result, which isn't quite the same thing. So I figure, hey, we get to actually have some controversy on the show. We don't get that very often.
And I love it. One of the things that we've discussed in the past is sort of everybody getting, the law of attraction in general agrees on everything. We pretty much agree thoughts and what we attract, but sometimes one of my favorite practitioners of the law of attraction, I'm sort of aligned the most with where he's at, is Mike Dooley. And when the Abraham Hicks version of align yourself and then take action is diametrically opposed to what Mike Dooley suggests. And he gives me the perfect analogy, which it fits my life. He said, if you get into your car and you're going to a location you don't know where you're going to, and you turn your GPS on, nothing happens until you start moving. It doesn't matter which direction you move, just start moving, and the GPS will know where you are and tell you how to correct your course to get there. And that, to me, is the take action first. Now, let me also preface this by a little, hedging. The idea of just placing myself into a position of I do need to be aligned in the sense of I don't need to be going in a direction of where I'm basing myself on a negative attempt. But I do believe that when you're stuck, the idea of aligning yourself is easier with action. I do think you can align as you go. You don't have to align before you go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And actually, I really don't think there's all that much disagreement here. I think what we really have is two different ways of looking at the same thing. But because Abraham, what they're really saying is, before you take an action where you want a change to take place, get yourself into a different alignment from where you were the first time, because otherwise you're going to get the same kind of result. Whereas what you're talking about is more about take action, period. Just get going, do something. Don't just sit there. Do something, figure out something, pick something. Instead of just waiting for, I'm going to sit here until things show up.
Right. Well, and that becomes, and that's the title of one of my next books is The Law of Action. And it ties in with the law of attraction in my mind. In fact, it's the working part of the law of attraction from my perspective. There is a strong category or group of law of attraction practitioners that do believe, and this sort of leans sort of in the camp of action's irrelevant, thoughts are all that matters. And while I understand where they're coming from, and like you're saying, I think we're really splitting, hairs here.
Yeah.
But the truth is, to me, the catalyst of action propels the law of attraction. It is the engine. The law of action is the engine of the law of attraction. We were talking about the thunderstorms earlier.
Right.
One of the most amazing things is back to Florida and being on the beach. One of those violent thunderstorms can move through, and then all of a sudden it's the most calm, beautiful sight you've ever seen. It cleanses the air. It churns the ocean, which oxygenates the ocean. It creates life. It creates the law of action is a catalyst, and whether it's in nature, the Big Bang theory of or how everything started, if that's the case, that's the law of action. There has to be movement, and there will be adjustment in alignment with movement. dealing from a psychological standpoint, the number one factor in dealing with anxiety is getting people to take action.
Mm-hmm.
It is the whole thing that anxiety and depression brings to someone's plate is they often are paralyzed by it, and they feel hopeless and they don't know where to begin. And I often get that question: so where do you begin? I go, I don't care. Let's begin. And I work with this really nice young man who's been debilitated by his anxiety, and it was yesterday. I've been trying to get him moving, and he's overthinking it and trying to align himself. Those were his words with everything. And I said, "Tell you how we're going to align you today." I took him to a job interview, and he got out of the car. He goes in. He fills out the first part of the application. He has a panic attack, and he leaves.
Oh boy!
And I said, and he said, "See, it's hopeless." I said, "No. Now you face the worst thing that can happen." So I had another place that was hiring. I said, "We're going there right away." I desensitized. My attempt was to desensitize him to the concept and understand the action is what matters. It's not the result.
Mm-hmm.
We did that 3 times. The first time he just left. The second time he fumbled through it, and the third time he nailed it.
Really?
All in the same day.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for him.
And so the idea of taking action to me it's been the example in my life, and that is my main life coaching style, is getting people to take action. Now, obviously, I want to take logical action. The action of you're facing criminal charges for writing bad checks. The action of writing bad checks does not help you. You don't want to continue doing that.
Right.
But the law of action of logical paths addressing what you want to do is just, and I don't know if you've ever remembered the post that I've had, that, what we have to do is we have to find our passion and pursue it with just gusto and believing in it. Love. And if you don't know what your passion is, find somebody who does know their passion and help them until you discover yours. The idea is taking action brings things into your life.
Yes, it does. And it does easier, too, because, I mean, it's not that it's impossible to track something with just, focusing on it and believing in it. It's not impossible. It's just a whole lot harder. I mean, you're going to get stuff happening so much faster when you take action. So especially if you're in a bad place, why are you going to take all your time and energy just trying to focus on attracting it when taking action would be so much easier?
Exactly. And that's such a that goes against what depression and anxiety is telling you. Depression and anxiety is like, do not take movement, do not take action, just stay here and live in your fear. And you desensitize yourself to the fear when you go take action, even if it feels like it's going to kill you. It's something that I don't know anybody that does that doesn't they feel better. It's when you're dealing with a mindset of, can I attract it without action? Yeah, I do believe you can. However, I don't know if you're really in the law of attraction, because do you really believe you can do it without action? That's the bigger thing. I'm going to sit here and not make any phone calls. I am not going to let anybody know my number. I just got a brand new phone number, and I'm going to just sit in my house with the door shut, attracting a job.
That's a tough one. You basically set yourself up for a really long wait, most likely.
Right. And I just can't imagine when someone, there could be the scenario where somebody comes and knocks on the door and offers you a job. I'm not saying it's impossible.
No.
I'm just saying that it becomes so much easier. The catalyst for the law of attraction is movement, getting out there. I told the story about the young man who was in his house, and I told him to walk to the mall. And he walked to the mall, and he discovered something on his journey to the mall that eventually led to a job and in a great career. It was that discovery that he made that happened because of the action. He didn't go to discover it along the way. I always say, if you're looking for a job, go to the places where the jobs are at and just walk around. We have several little areas in Richmond that I do that often with my young people that are struggling with jobs. Or getting jobs. I'll just take them to the areas, the thriving areas. I'll park in the parking lot and point. Say, go to that one, go to that one, go to that one. And I've sometimes had to walk in with them, but I always can get that thing turning that way by going and doing it. Or if it's enrolling in school and they can't do it, I'll drive them. I'll go with them to the school, to the college, the university, and sit down and figure it out, help them do the stuff they need to get done. That starts that catalyst, and it's almost, again, action creates action, and there's always going to be response to what you do, an equal, at least an equal, if not a increased amount of response to the action you take is what I have found. I just need to get moving, and that's where I run into everything. That's my life is full of action, and the action, and not every action I take brings the result I want, but it does lead to results. It does. I talk about this treatment center that I worked at for a short period of time, and it was last year, and that's when I stepped away from the show for a little while when I went to be COO of this company.
Right.
And while they do incredible work, it was not the type of work that I wanted to do. It didn't match my belief system exactly, and I'm still affiliated and I refer to them, but I don't actively work there any longer. But what I've done is within that, I met several new contacts. I created several new streams of revenue with new clients that I wouldn't have ever met to a non-traditional way. I have more referral sources because when I was there, so that was not a waste of time. That was actually part of action. It wasn't the result I was after when I took the job, but it's what came out of the job. And I think most of us can relate to it. Isn't what I wanted, but it gave me something else.
Right. Yeah, there's always something that comes out of it, even if it doesn't turn out to be exactly what you were asking for. There's some benefit, there's some information, there's some new way of looking at a new perspective. There's something, and it's always there. You just have to find it.
Right.
Now,
and that's it. Go ahead.
Oh, the other thought that I was going to go on was let's modify the scenario a bit. Let's say you have somebody who does take action, and they go on 5 job interviews. And without realizing it, in all 5 of those job interviews, they go in, they're not smiling, they're not really, their energy level isn't all that high. They kind of mumble a lot. They don't really do a good job answering the questions, and they get no jobs. That's a point where now you got to do your alignment thing, I think, because it's your alignment that's causing the problem there.
Well, and that matches that GPS scenario. You start heading in the right direction, then it corrects you. Do a U-turn in 100 feet or something is what it tells you. And that's sort of the technique I used yesterday with this young man. The first interview was a train wreck, and I intentionally took him to the worst of the 3 jobs for the first one.
Good move.
I didn't know exactly where it was going to go, but I was pretty confident the first one was the way he was acting wasn't going to be successful.
Right.
But we aligned, in the car between each stop, we realigned where he was at. The first one, I said, okay, you went in, you had a panic attack, and it's your worst case scenario. He said, yes, it was horrible. And I go, and you're still alive. You're still breathing, right?
Mm.
He's like, well, yeah. I said, so I helped him align the thought as we go. The second one, while he was doing the mumbling and this is a very bright young man, and he just forgot about half of what he did not make a great impression.
Right.
So when he got out, we realigned. I said, okay, you had a huge improvement. You sat through the whole thing. Yep. You didn't have a panic attack. Now, you didn't present yourself well, but let's look at everything you did properly. And then what's next? And so then we switched back to the third one where now he's aligned for that process, and he nailed it. And that was the alignment. We adjusted the course as we go. Mm-hmm. And that's, and I think that's what my post was about attracting, take the fear and turn it into action. You defeat fear or anxiety with action. And when you can't keep the same alignment and expect the action to have any effect. The action will reveal where you need to align. If like you're saying, if you go on 5 job interviews and you're not getting anything, or you clearly are not aligned, and you have to do that alignment process. So I think that's where, they sort of converge. I mean, they sort of, it sounds different, but as you're saying, I think they're basically saying the same thing.
They really are.
Abraham Hicks is sort of lends it to, well, don't do anything. And then the alignment will get you ready. And Dooley's version is do it and then align as we go. You get there the same place, and it's that overall same version. And one thing that I think it represents here is I don't think every individual's personality will find the variances that they need within the law of attraction. It's the universal tool that works the same, but not everybody's personality is the same. Some of us need action and movement to align. Other people can see I'm not aligned and I'd better do that before I do this, and that makes sense. But what Abraham Hicks certainly doesn't mean, and I think a lot of people can hide behind this. They don't mean sit on your couch for 6 months while you align,
right,
expecting somebody knock at the door.
Exactly.
That's not happening.
Yeah. And who would actually suggest that? I mean, that would be crazy to suggest that.
Right.
That's basically, again, setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. So that I have many examples of the action. The action. Step one is action. Step two is alignment in the process of the act. And that's the way I incorporate business. I have a nickname that a friend of mine calls me. He calls me the implementer. And when I go in and I want to set something up and I'm doing consulting work for a company, I don't have 15 meetings about it. I get the dynamics of what we're trying to do, and I implement it. I put a program in place immediately, and then we find the flaws and we fix it. A lot of times it's like, well, let's do the program after we spend 6 months getting it set up, and that's, to me, that's just a total waste of time. You implement the program and you adjust it as you go. When my dad and I were in business together, and that didn't end well, was many years ago.
Right.
And we were in the insurance business. We were opened up in an office. We had our main office in my hometown, and there was a little town right around the corner, so to speak. And we were going to open up a secondary office there. And we got the lease, and we got the furniture in, and my dad was there, and I said, well, can we open tomorrow? I was ready to open. And he said, no, we got to get office supplies. We have to do this. I said, well, Dad, we open. It isn't going to be like people are lined up to buy insurance. You get me open, and then I can figure out we didn't need paper. We don't have paper clips. Let me go up there and get them. We were 2 miles from an office supply store. Mm-hmm. But Dad's theory was he had a checklist. The paper clips were there, the paper cutters there, the copy machines there, the fax machines there. And my thing was let's open and fill in the blanks. Mm-hmm. His thing was fill in the blanks, then open.
Right.
And it was very successful for him. It worked great. It's just, again, a personality type.
Yeah.
I was about taking the action and filling in the blanks, and he was about filling in the blanks and taking action. A lot of that, we got to the same place, but it was just, what do you prefer? Which matches you best? And I think that has a little bit to do with the law of attraction as well.
Another point that I want to bring up about what Abraham teaches, Abraham actually does not teach get into perfect alignment before you take action. What they teach is improve your alignment before you take action. So if you're in like a depressed state, at least get yourself up to angry, or maybe even go for frustrated. Right. Move up the scale a little bit and then take some action. But just don't stay where you are right now before you take the action. I think
that's right. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's right on, because you have to take the action then. I mean, actually, the worst thing you can do if you're in a negative state is to try to align, fail to align, and then fail to take the action, and then make yourself more depressed as a result. That kills you.
That's a recurring theme for a lot of people that aren't using the law of attraction in a beneficial way. Is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
it is. You go in and you do a half energy interview, and you're in a depressed state, and that energy you're putting off is negative, and then you fail to you didn't go in there with the right alignment. You didn't adjust. you didn't adjust it, you didn't do it, and then you keep continually doing it without aligning, and your result will create more depression and more debilitation and more anxiety. No matter what I do, nobody wants to hire me.
And one of the reasons that we get in that state, I think, is because we try, many of us, I know this is me anyway, and probably a lot of people, we aim for perfection. So we've got to get into perfect alignment first before we can do anything. Oh, I can't get into perfect alignment, I'm done.
Right. And that is such a really, it's a recurring theme for so many people.
Yeah.
It's that vicious cycle of self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you can't do it, you're absolutely right. It's
that's right.
It's fact. and so it's just the same thing as we move forward here with what we're discussing today about taking whatever we have to do to get ourselves in that right position. And as always, there's a bunch of different ways to get there, and you'll hear different versions of what works for different people. But if you really break it down, it all is about the attitude. Now, where you implement the attitude might have a little bit of difference or where you adjust. But the worst thing you can do is take action, fail, and then just totally continue to fail.
Yes.
You just that becomes a repetitive thing. Nothing changes.
Which is pointless. I mean, well, it's not pointless. It actually has one point. It makes you feel worse. But that's not a really good point. It's a pretty bad point when you think about it.
Right.
Now, if we're taking steps and we're finding that we're not getting improvement, and the same situation's happening over and over again. It doesn't have to be a job interview. It could be, trying to find a new mate, or it could be trying to do something to get more money, or trying to improve your health, or it could be any kind of situation, almost any relationships of any kind, business relationship. There are a lot of different things where we can take steps and not feel like we're getting anywhere, and then not sure what to do, and we're not sure why it's happening. When we're in that place and we can't really find the answer, what's the way out? I mean, obviously one way out is to talk to somebody like you, a professional therapist, life coach. But if, let's say, you don't have a life coach available to you, if you want to take your own steps, how do you get out of that? What's your recommended way to do that?
Well, one of the things that I always fall back on, and I really believe, is I fall back onto the real concept of you have to. Everything for me starts with gratitude. You align yourself. Where am I starting is always a place of gratitude. I look at what I have. When I'm grateful, my perspective is different. And if I'm focusing on what I'm doing wrong, and that's the only thing that I'm focusing on, I keep doing this and I keep getting the same results. What am I not changing? And that's what I can do from a place of when I'm in the grateful mindset and a positive mindset. I then can evaluate what, not in a right or wrong manner, but what is working and what's not working. Clearly what I'm doing isn't working. And, it's then I'm able to, from a place of positive perspective, what can I do in a sense that if I'm doing this, what it would be the opposite? I always start with what is the opposite of what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And it might not always be the opposite, but it gives us a sort of a contrast. I will help people I've done this just in general talks, evaluating where you're at, doing an inventory sort of what happens. And let's talk about relationships.
Okay.
If you keep, I have several clients that they come to me with, they basically keep attracting the same dysfunctional person in their life. They're different names for these people, but they're all the same person in the end. Mm-hmm. So what are you putting out there? And I'll use an example of this lady's in Florida. It's been many years ago, but it's really a great example. I ended up in a therapeutic setting working with her, and she had been physically abused by her father, by her brother, by her first boyfriend, second boyfriend, first husband, and second husband. All those men had abused her. And she just got into another relationship, and after 2 dates, the third man had beaten her as well. And she said, I found that really interesting because that is, first of all, such a rough topic that I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to get you help. And the normal recommendations of contact the police, do all that stuff. But what is taking place in your vibration that is attracting that personality type? Because clearly you're attracting that, because I don't know people that do that. I don't have friends that do that. So, it's a group of people that you are, again, everybody gets in this blame thing. I'm not blaming her for, no one should be abused by anyone, period. Let's be clear. But if we keep finding ourselves in the same situation, we do have to have an introspective look at, why am I minimally attracted to the personality type? And we start breaking it down in relationships. Well, what she was doing was mistaking excitement. Like I said, you ever had relationships with anyone who hasn't beaten you? Well, yeah. And she told me about one. Well, he was really boring. He didn't do much. He did have a full-time job. He made a good living, but he wasn't passionate. So somewhere along the way, she had equated passion with abuse, and the reward for a lot of people in these relationships it isn't the abuse, clearly, but the intensity, their perception of the intensity. He loved me so much he couldn't control himself, and then their makeup period was so intense. I'm so sorry, and it just felt right, but at the same time being wrong. And so helping people adjust as they go, when you find yourself in the same redundant circumstances, and then being able to make a change, what is it differently? I've seen you make changes in the way you view things and had great drastic results doing that. And I keep trying to hone my skill set of what works, what doesn't work. Don't place myself, if I have to go take a job, and this is part of that job that I mentioned earlier. Well, one day there's with my personality type, I am not a sit still, spend 8 hours a day reviewing boring regulations, reading that all day for it.
Yeah, that would not work for you at all.
Not at all. Right. Well, I found myself one day having to read an entire program's regulation, proofread it, and make any corrections, and submit them for approval, then redo them. Well, after about 2 days of that, I said, oh, no. Don't put myself in a position like that. If somebody, I turned down probably a job a month to run a treatment center somewhere in the country. And I don't want to I love the client interaction. I love that piece. I do not like the bureaucracy that comes with running dealing with the HR responsibility, the HIPAA stuff, and all the stuff that the compliance stuff is so hard to do with those roles that I just don't want to do it anymore. I love the counseling side, the face-to-face. In my private practice, I'm able to do that. That's 95% of my business is the actual counseling. When I'm managing a treatment center, I'm lucky to have 10% of my day actually doing the counseling. So I've identified that. I don't put myself in a position to fail. And a part of it is having the courage to step back and look at it. And when I say courage, a lot of times the thing that's holding us back is this comfort zone we talk about. What are you comfortable doing? I don't want to jump into something without thoroughly knowing the temperature of the water and how deep it is, and is it chlorinated? Is it safe? That's what a lot of people sort of view, and they get stuck on that. And so something that requires their all that attention really makes, if they don't have the ability to overthink it and look at it, then they don't move fast enough, and then they get shut out. One of the advantages of young companies, you get a massive company like General Electric, and they haven't been having a good few months.
Nope.
They're this massive conglomerate that they're almost too big, and one side doesn't know what the other side's doing, and they're becoming antiquated in a lot of their stuff. And then you get a younger company come along that can make decisions boom. I don't. The owner's making the decision. Well, they're getting blown away by a bunch of these little companies that are doing things so much quicker and better and adapting so much more than they can. And that's one of their problems. They have become a bureaucracy that it's feeding on itself, and they create a lot of work that is just intended for them to do for their bureaucracy versus a small company. Let's take action now. So the ability to be flexible, to move, and there's an advantage for small startups because they can change their mission on a dime. Boom.
Oh yeah, very
versus,
true.
And so as humans, being able to adjust is so important on what's not working. So the scenario you described, somebody that keeps getting stuck in that and keeps attracting the same thing, you have to start with a place of what is working for me and what is not working for me, and be grateful for the stuff and pleased with the stuff that is working. In my presentation, what I encourage people, and again, this is a comfort zone thing. If you go on a job interview and you don't get the job, and not everybody's going to respond to that, most people won't, but you find the right person, and I suggest writing an email if you didn't get the job and say, I am working on self-development. I really appreciate your time. Could you give me a brief paragraph on why you didn't choose me? You're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm working on, give me an area or two that I can prove. So my next interview, now, again, most people will not respond to that.
Right.
They're busy and they don't want to actually think, hurt your feelings. But the few that may can be incredibly helpful. If you keep finding yourself hearing the same thing over and over again, or feeling like, this part went really well, and then when I got to this part, it just fell apart, that gives you a place to work on. And almost always the place you need to work on is a violation of what you're comfortable of doing. Find out what you're uncomfortable doing, and more than likely that's your source of you're not able to perform because of that uncomfortable feeling. And my big thing always is I try every day to not be comfortable. I don't want to get too comfortable. I want to keep moving. I want new things. I want to experience new things. I want to fail every day because I don't want to exist in a comfort zone. Nothing happens there. The law of action happens. The law of attraction happens when we're doing, moving, learning. And it's an invigorating way of living. I have limitless energy. I love that life. And I try to equate that when I am working with people. And I encourage people who even, and that's what my law of attraction book is going to cover. My law of action book is going to cover is a lot of this for people who are stuck. And what action can I take? The last 100 actions I've taken have all disappointed. Yes. And it isn't just the other side of it. It's just not taking action. It's aligning during the action, using the action that's not getting the results you want to if you go in thinking there's no way I'm going to get this job, I have no chance.
You're right.
You can't.
You're absolutely
Guaranteed.
Right. Yeah.
You'll pick. I have never sat down in a job interview, when I say that, in my post-recovery area. Not in my crazy times, but my post-recovery area. I have never sat down in a job interview that I was not offered the job.
Wow.
Because when I go in with that energy, and people pick up on that energy, and now
I can say something similar. I've always been offered a job when my energy was good. I have not always been offered a job, and often not offered it when my energy wasn't good.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Post recovery, when I discovered all this, I go in, I pump myself up. When people feel your energy, I was given a talk at this treatment center that deals with adolescents, and I was really just talking to the staff. I'm trying to get them motivated and just keep them focused on what their mission. It's easy when you're working in the social services field, especially with kids, to get stuck into the paperwork side of it. Mm-hmm. And you can get lost in all that. So I was trying to, the owner of this company, he has like 7 or 8 group homes, and he has an outpatient, he has a lot of stuff, and he has several employees, and they all are very just sort of burned out. Mm. And so I gave this talk, and everybody loved it. They were asking questions, and we were really looking at moving forward to get everything going in a really good way. And afterwards, he came up to me and he said, "What would it cost for you to be the director of my program?" And I said, I don't want to be the director of your program. Thank you. And he just couldn't understand. He said, well, there's got to be a number. And I go, there's really not. I said, I'll come in and help on a consulting level as much as you want, but I don't want that side, because the energy that he felt and the staff felt. And I started doing a series of monthly things with his company. And it really, again, not tooting my horn, they really understood it and were able to adjust what wasn't working and go forward, get excited about things. So that energy we place out there when we're taking action, that's where I'm 100% on board with the Abraham Hicks version of this, is do not dare continue to go on job interviews or dates or whatever you're trying to attract with the wrong energy. If you're expecting the worst to happen, that's what you're putting out there. Boom. That's it.
It is. Yeah. And by the way, I love the suggestion you made about contacting an employer that you interviewed with where you didn't get the job and asking them what was I don't remember how you phrased it, but what deficiencies were there? Why didn't you qualify, or what made you not a good candidate? And the reason I say that is, I play some role with my wife's gardening business. I take some of the initial calls, and depending on what job they're applying for, I don't interview the gardeners, but I'll interview somebody who's like a sales rep, because that's right in my alley. And I love the idea of having somebody like that ask me, why didn't I get the job? If somebody did that, I would jump on it and just say, oh, I can tell you exactly why, because I want them to be better. And I can't say all employers are going to be like that, but I would, and I'm pretty sure my wife would too. I mean, we would certainly not turn down a request like that. And we would answer openly and honestly, like, this is what really was going through our minds when we said, no, that's not really a good fit.
Right. And that is one of the $1 million, that's how you become sort of the $1 million answer that in life. That's one of the things that ask people. Don't worry about what they're going to say. It won't hurt don't let it hurt your feelings. You can't ask and then get upset. It's
you don't want to set it up
and then really learn.
Right.
And what I also recommend, that if any employer wants to do that, this is just a sort of a liability suggestion. Do that over the phone.
Oh yeah. Don't do it in writing.
Yeah, don't do it in writing, just because you don't want anything to be misinterpreted in what you're saying. But just and I've done that. When I've had therapists interview with me before, when I was running treatment centers, and they would say, "Are you going to let me know if I got the job or not?" I said, "Yeah, I certainly will." And I always tried to make sure I let people know that the position was filled. I don't want them waiting, thinking they got a job,
right?
And they didn't. And the ones that would ask, "Why didn't I get the job?" And sometimes it was, you were in the top 3, and I just had a match that was just a little bit better. But if I really couldn't find much to critique wrong, the other person had more experience, or it matched our population better with who they've historically worked with. So these are little things that I can throw out there. Or I've been brutally blunt. You didn't make eye contact. You had one-word answers. You truly were not. You did not come across as enthusiastic in your pursuit, and I've had people get upset when it comes to, well, now you've asked me for that. You asked me for that information, and I'm giving it to you. And 9 out of 10 times that I've ever done it, it was handled well. And anybody that does this, anybody that takes that initiative to do it, it is part of the law of action. You're asking what is not working. If somebody is in a company and they have the same job as you, and they're sales related, and they're making $150,000 a year, and you're making $50,000 a year, and you want to know why, figure out what they're doing right and what you're not. What do you need to adjust? And almost always, I inevitably will find areas Well, this guy, he's not fearing rejection. He puts himself out there every day 5 times more than I do. So it isn't luck. It's the fact this guy's busy. He takes action. You are fearing the rejection. You don't like the rejection, and you get to a point where rejection just, it's part of it. Not everybody's going to accept you. It's fine. Move on, but don't. Not everybody's looking to buy whatever you're selling at that point. Just accept the rejection and move on. One of the things, when I used to own a gym in South Carolina, and somebody would walk into the gym and to buy a membership, and I had 2 salespeople usually, and I would do sales as well. And I would try to motivate them to understand, look, somebody got out of their car. They walked into the gym. They came in with the intent of buying a gym membership. If they're leaving without buying a gym membership, what did you not do to convince them that this was the right gym? That's all you have to ask. Our
Pretty
prices
much,
were these people got out of their car. They didn't just come on the phone. That's one of the reasons we said, come on in and we'll discuss it. Because once they get there, get out of the car, they're ready to go. So I used to do, when I would see people leave, I used to drive my salespeople crazy. I would say, look, my name's Joel. I'm the owner of the gym. I said, I apologize that we weren't able to meet your needs. I said, could you give me 5 minutes and so I can improve the gym and let me ask you a question, why you didn't join? And probably 90% of those joined in that interview.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
And it used to drive the salespeople crazy because it was like, oh, he wasn't going to buy no matter what. Yeah, he was. He didn't come in not to buy. Some people just don't need to be sold. I mean, sometimes they were overselling. Sometimes they were not listening to what they were saying. You're trying to sell the concept of building huge muscles when this person's a long distance runner.
Right.
You're not focusing on the right thing.
Exactly.
So that's what we do. That's the evaluation piece of all of this.
And another piece to keep in mind, particularly if you're job hunting, is it's possible to apply for a job where you're actually a good candidate, but there's just one thing that you can't possibly fix that's outside of your control, and that's why you didn't get the job. And as an example,
right.
Again, I point to my wife's gardening business. I mean, we do get applicants who have very good gardening skills, but they don't get hired. And the number one reason they don't get hired is because they live outside of the valley. And the reason we don't hire from somebody outside of the valley is that, in our experience, 100% of the time, they don't last more than a week. Why? Because of the commute. They just don't want to do the commute. The commute stops them. Even though they're great for the job, the commute is just too much, and so they give up on it. So Louise has set the policy. We just don't even hire anybody who lives outside of the valley. It never works out.
Right.
Now, does that mean they're bad gardeners? Absolutely not. They're good gardeners. It's not a good fit.
Yeah. And that is exactly my world. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Finding it isn't always you. It seems like we talk about this on some level. Maybe we need to really look at this as an entirely different topic sometime.
Okay.
But this blame concept.
Oh,
the
yeah, we could do one on that
blame.
for sure. Oh, because I want to kill that one. Ugh. Yes.
Yeah. And so, sometimes it just doesn't fit. It isn't about a blame. When if you want to work for me or work in an environment where I'm in charge, I'm not going to, if I have somebody come in, well, how are you doing? My back's hurting, and they give me a litany of what's wrong. Well, it's pretty confident. I'm not hiring you.
Right.
I need what's right. Tell me what's going on. How you doing? I need that energy because I'm going to operate. One of the ladies that I used to work with, she actually may be listening, and so she'll know it's her. She had one of these scenarios where she was working at a company that I used to work at, and she was constantly, after I left, she was constantly complaining on how they were running things, how bad it was. And I kept reminding her, yes, that sounds like a tough work environment, but again, you're in charge of your perspective. And this went on and on and on. And finally I told her, I said, I'm here to support you. However, the negative text about what's going on are not helpful to you. And I said, not affecting me, but I just wish you would try to look for the positive. Well, about a week after all that, they let her go. And she was shocked. She said, I cannot believe that they let me go.
Mm-hmm.
I go, really? Really? You can't believe it? I challenged her to accept that this is her thinking that brought that about. And that's all there was to it. You know, it's just that negativity that you're putting out there and how horrible things were. They picked up on it. They let you go. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And so much of that is when you're evaluating. You know, if she goes to the next company and gets involved in all the drama and talks about all the bad things, she's going to lose that job too, and it'll continue. Or she can change her perspective of it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. In fact, that's something, again, we've run into with Louise's business, her gardening service. We've hired people to be assistant managers, to be sales reps, to be, a variety of different things. And in the interview, they sound pretty good. And then they come in and then they start harping on stuff. Oh, they're complaining about this.
Right.
Oh, they're complaining about that. And they don't realize how what they're doing is impacting everybody else negatively. It's bringing everybody else down.
Yes.
It's reducing productivity. People get less work done because they're just feeling so weighed down. And once we fire that person or let them go or however you want to describe it, everything improves. And I guarantee you, 10 times out of 10, not 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, that person, if they were to evaluate what happened, would say, oh, well, it was the company's rules, or, oh, it was the people I was working with, or, oh, it was the unrealistic customers. It would never be they did it themselves.
Right. And that's the piece. When one of the things that I'm finding most when I'm doing consulting work right now, the economy is doing real well. People are making good money. In a lot of ways, things are going great in the economy. But what a lot of the companies are focused on now is culture, and the positive culture, and weeding out that negative. You can destroy the company if you get one negative person talking about what's going wrong. I used to address the meeting. We're not doing everything perfectly. I appreciate the fact that you're aware that we're not, and please bring to me what we're not doing perfectly, and we'll keep working on it. But if you're harping on only the things we're doing wrong, the company will fold. It will go bad. It can't. But we have to focus on the incredible stuff that's going right, the good stuff that we're doing. The rest of the stuff will fall in, and it certainly will fall into place.
It does. And the good news is there are an awful lot of people who do go into companies with good attitudes. We're very glad and appreciative and grateful that we now have a team of people. All of our people are fabulous. The people we have working with Louise's company right now they're just top notch. And it shows up in the results. Just the other day, Louise told me there was a new customer who we were working on, and his first reaction the first day of watching them work on the property was, wow, they're so meticulous. I mean, it way exceeded the level of quality he was expecting. That's the kind of thing that happens when you have a lot of good people, all good people working in your company.
That helped, and that culture side, that concept of, I try to run businesses or consult businesses with the idea of instilling a law of attraction approach to running the business, and it's amazing the results that come from that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, this has been good. This has been a good discussion, and I'm glad we kind of ironed this one out, because when I saw it, I said, you know what, that is an interesting conflict, and it does seem like the perspectives don't go together, but I think we've pretty much shown they actually do go together. They're just two different sides of the same coin, really. So thanks for going over with me.
Completely.
And I love the idea about talking about blame. Why don't we make a note and make that the topic for next week, for next Thursday? What do you think?
Let's do that. Yeah. Hopefully we remember.
Yeah, I'll make a note, and I'll bring it up and make sure. That way you don't have to remember, because I know you're dealing with stuff. But, we'll do that next week.
Okay.
Joel, it's been great. For somebody who wants to reach out to you, how do they reach you?
JoelElston@gmail.com or JoelElston.com. Either way, reach out, do a phone session, individual. Love to talk with you if you need. I can refer if I can't help you.
Sounds great. Been good, my friend. Let's do it again next week.
All right, great to talk to you.
All right, we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.